Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to The Best Way to Deal with Toxic People, Acharya Prashant with NIT Calcutta 2022. So, I guess this is the kind of thing I want to give advice to, is to people, how to deal with things, how to deal with emotions, with people, with stress, etc. This has always been me, to gather information and to gather wisdom and to I would say express those wisdom, but to tell those wisdom to other people, so that people can learn the easy way, not the hard way. For me, the way I deal with toxic people is, I kind of feel sorry for them, honestly, just because they're mad at me for something, and it's like, hey, look, fair enough if you're mad at me, that's fine, but you got to work on something, You being mad ain't gonna help anything, and I still help them out if they need it, and I ignore them for the most part. I will say though, I don't really have very many toxic people in my life, so I so I can't say from personal experience how to deal with a toxic person. But then again, maybe it's because of my outlook in life, perhaps. Maybe there's a toxic person in my life and I just don't know it. I'm not sure. But let's find out how to deal with toxic people. For the, yeah.
Namaste, sir. I'm Shirley. My question is how to deal with the toxic people in our daily life. And sometimes their behavior adds negativity and upset in my life. And how to deal such situation and how to stay positive when I'm dealing with such personalities.
You are Shelley, you said?
Yeah, Shirley.
Shelley, how did you, first of all, manage to accommodate so many toxic people in your daily life? Like attracts like. My question to you is, how did you, first of all, have so many toxic people gravitate to you? How did that happen? It's a miracle.
I get what it's saying. That's actually pretty interesting. I'm wondering if it's just because maybe it's work for her, or just her work environment. You're kind of surrounded by toxic people. It's not necessarily that you want to hang out with them, but you're kind of forced to with jobs and your work job. Like if you work like customer service, I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I'm sure they get a lot of toxic people. It's not like they're sitting there attracting them. It's just that job entails toxic people for the most part. But for me, of course, I try to just genuinely be nice with everyone, and I know life is hard enough. This is my motto: life is hard enough. Why make it harder? I know their jobs there is kind of crappy, and I don't want to be too troublesome with them. Obviously, but I want to get something done, but I'm not going to be toxic about it. Try to make it as easy flowing as possible.
Not so many, sir. One of two papers, they are always
Even
manipulating.
even those two people, how are they managing to stick around? Why are they still in your sensory or mental domain? Why do you see them? Why do you think of them?
Because I can't avoid them, but
Now, that's
sometimes they are
exactly what
bad.
toxicity is. That's exactly what toxicity is. Something that cannot be avoided.
Yes.
That's everybody's apology and explanation. Just as you say you cannot avoid toxic people, similarly the toxic people say they cannot avoid being toxic. That's everybody's apology. Now what do? Tell me.
In my problem is I'm always reacting them. So
You always?
I'm always reacting them when they are manipulating, when they are judging.
That's what.
Sometimes I'm not able to, okay, I used to think that I will be silent, but in some situation I can't. So I will.
No, we need to stick to my question. Why are these people there in your life at all?
That's the thing she's not really answering. Very much so is the question he's asking. Like, are they there because you work with them? Then okay, that's understandable. Then you're gonna have to manage that. But if you're hanging out with them, why are you still hanging out with them? Now, this is kind of why I'll say I believe his name is Daryl Davis. he's kind of a bit of a hero because he literally hangs out with toxic people. If you look him up, you might know what I'm talking about. But I genuinely, because his approach is so, you'll have to look him up to understand. He eliminates, not in the bad, not in that way, no, but he eliminates toxic people by being their friend, genuinely being their friend. And if you understand his story, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But the problem with his position, though, is that he can end up being used. But that's the kind of risk you have to take by doing his kind of work. The way he handles his job, those people will no longer be toxic in the sense of Daryl Davis. But with that, the way his method works, you run the risk of being used. But that's the only way to really do it, though. Are they in your work?
Of course, sir, they are my family members. So,
Oh.
So why do they need to be necessarily there in your life? Who told you that the family is bigger than everything else? You are not born to be a family woman. You are born to be liberated. Liberation is bigger than everything. Your gender, your identities, your roles, your relationships, all of these are subservient to your existential purpose. You do not exist to be a family member. You are born alone, you will die alone. What is this thing about family? The only thing that will remain with you is the height of consciousness you could reach. In fact, the ones who have known have told us that if you could reach great heights and even transcend the heights, those heights remain so much with you that even your death does not matter, you become immortal. Will the family remain with you always? They are already bothering you so much.
Not everyone, but some people. But because just 2 days back, they are judging, manipulating, and I can't control. So I said I reacted, but that affected me.
You're not. You're not.
You're missing the point. What he's trying to say. What he said is a bit harsh, I will say, but it's in a lot of sense the truth. I probably wouldn't put it that way, but then some people need to be smacked in the face with the truth sometimes. But essentially, he's saying that your family, everything in this life is temporary. Obviously, your family, your life, your friends, your children, your grandfather, grandmother, and all of that. Your family, everything is temporary. I think what she's trying to get at is the fact that, well, they may be temporary, but they're with me for the rest of their lives, or at least my life. So while she doesn't look at doesn't look at Brahman the same as Acharya here looks at, and I get it. I think what Acharya probably is trying to point out here is the fact that once you obtain this level, it doesn't matter that they're annoying you or not. You understand that the pettiness of those toxic people is very temporary, and you can be around them. Perhaps, I don't know if he's going to say that or not, but yeah, and they won't bother you at all. Perhaps. I mean, even I believe Swami Vivekananda was still bothered by the everyday life. He was, I guess, pretty much very much connected to the people, so maybe even then you'll still be bothered by it, but ultimately you're unaffected by it. If you can realize that, then perhaps you can be around toxic people, and hopefully change their minds. But I don't know the exact situation for her situation is.
Being fully willing to consider my question. If there are such people, what compulsion do you have to have interactions with them? Please tell me.
Family.
And it is these compulsions that fuel the toxicity. If toxicity knows that it would be thrown out of the window, it would change its ways, but it does not mend itself because it knows it would be accommodated. Why do you accommodate it so much? And by accommodating it, are you doing yourself any good? Are you doing the other person any good? That person will continue to remain toxic. You will continue to suffer. You will continue to feel like a victim. He will continue to be himself. Who is gaining?
Yeah, gaining.
Nobody is gaining, right? You know what is the fundamental problem? This feeling of obligation, this feeling of compulsiveness, this feeling that you are indebted, that there is a great responsibility to bear all nonsense. And all of this arises from an ignorance of one's true nature. Since we do not know who we really are, therefore we take on all kinds of needless roles, responsibilities and identities. Every second lost to mischief is a second that you owed to your own inner progress. Every second lost to toxicity is a moment stolen away from its right utilization. Do you see what kind of loss that is? Also, remember, we are talking of just one side of the story. If we manage to bring those two so-called toxic people to this conversation, they will have their own tale to tell. Toxicity is not something necessarily present in a person. It breeds in an environment, not really in a person. And if it is there in an environment, there are many people responsible for it.
So her and those two people, what breeds toxicity? If those people are not there and she's there, no toxicity. If she's not there and those two people are there, no toxicity. I guess he's perhaps, maybe she disagrees with their opinions and then considers them to be toxic because it's a differing opinion than hers, maybe? Again, without her being very clear on what they're saying or doing, we don't know who's genuinely the toxic person here. Maybe she thinks they're toxic, but they have just a different opinion than hers, I don't know.
Stop being one of those who are responsible for that toxicity. You can support toxicity actively by displaying toxic behavior, or you can support toxicity passively by tolerating toxic behavior. Active or passive, support is support. Is it not?
I guess. I wonder if he'll say that you can, in a sense, put down toxic behavior by just being true and calm, by not actively supporting it, but nor passively denying it, or passively supporting it.
And there is fun in portraying oneself as the victim of toxicity. We are not just victims of toxicity, we are supporters of toxicity.
Sorry, when he said victims of toxicity, it reminded me of so many things happen in America. Oh my gosh.
Please understand, all these concepts that have been implanted in our minds, that cohesion is of prime importance, that staying together is of prime importance, that being uh, a good mannered and dainty girl, a woman, is of prime importance. These are junk principles. The real principles of life have never been taught to us. What really matters in life is not your good etiquette, but your deep wisdom. But wisdom is something we never respected, never quite cultivated with intent. Instead, we value a lot of other things, and those other things, they are actually valueless. We have just been taught to value them. Stop giving values to things that have none. Call a spade a spade. And it's not about being vindictive. It's not about retribution. In some sense, it is also about helping that other toxic person. Somebody has to call him out, and that need not be done with a lot of anger. That has to be done as an exercise in factfulness. Why not tell it to the other person that he or she is displaying sick behavior? That person's behavior is adversely affecting the mental well-being of a lot of other people, at least one other person. And you do that honestly, and you do that without any violence. If the other person is his own well-wisher, he will listen to you. That must be your intention. And if he does not listen, then you cannot foist yourself on someone. People improve by their own consent. If you tell the right things to a person and he does not want to improve, you cannot force him to. Right? That's not in your hands. But your own well-being is definitely in your hands. I repeat, there is no obligation, no responsibility to stay put in an environment or with people who adversely impact your mental health. Anything else?
No, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Well, he's not wrong about that, for sure. I don't know what happened there, by the way. That's part of the video. But yeah, again, Daryl Davis, a little bit about it. The thing is he in a sense does what a charter here has said about, like, you know, speaking facts and stuff. Although the facts that Daryl Davis speaks isn't like, oh, this is the facts about this. It's not statistics or anything. It's about life facts. You'll have to look him up. I think that's his name. But the life facts he talks about is how people can be friends, how what another person's thought of him or his kind are wrong. And he does that just by merely being their friend, going in there, treating them out to dinner, cooking them lunch, inviting them to the club, and listening to them sing. He has taken down so many of these members. I will say he did a TED talk. It was a little crazy of what he does, but you know, in terms of what he does with these cloths that he collects. And But yes, um, she doesn't have to be in those kind of environments, much like Daryl Davis does. But by putting yourself in that environment, you have the opportunity to change a person's mind. You have opportunity to make them see that perhaps they are wrong in their thinkings. But I do believe you have to have a bit of a strong mind. So if she's able to separate her emotions from herself at the very least, or become unaffected by um, anger or this toxicity, then she can push through it and hopefully convince the other person's mind what Acharya at the end said there, but facts, without aggression, without violence, absolutely, without being condescending or saying or presenting yourself like, oh, I'm right and you're wrong, kind of deal, that little attitude. Don't know where that came from, but yeah, just be there, be nice, talk to them. It's like, oh, no, it's like, I disagree with you. These are actually the facts right here. You can pull it up if you want, and it's up to them whether they change or not. But if you can get past this toxicity and you can continue to be there, eventually they will be the one that leaves, or they will change their mind. Or maybe if they're strong-willed enough, maybe they'll sit there and stay and become more toxic as well. There's very much different possibilities. Or maybe they get tired and it's like, you know what? Yeah, I looked up all your facts and you're right. I'm wrong about it. Let's talk about something else now. But yeah, I mean, the thing is though is that I guess my advice would be is definitely find a way to what Acharya said at the very beginning is your true self being unaffected by all this toxicity, all these emotions, thoughts, whatever. You can, stuff happens to you and you're unaffected by it. Then again, I don't know what the toxic behavior is about. You present your case as best you can with facts or with your thoughts as much as possible. The best you can do is hope that they change their mind, they see your ways, or if it's affecting another person and you think they're being toxic to that person, hopefully that person that you're trying to say no, don't do what they're doing because they have bad behavior, they're toxic, you shouldn't be doing that, is that they choose your path over theirs, saying that don't do what they do, it's a bad path, do another thing other than their path. Again, without knowing exactly the situation, it's a little bit difficult. But by leaving the situation, you do remove yourself from toxic behavior. But I think the problem is that, again, depending on what the issue is, that issue will still be there. It may not affect you, but then that toxic behavior could spread, maybe. Again, without knowing exactly what exactly is the problem with the situation of hers, I can't exactly pinpoint like, oh, this is the issue and this is the problem, whatever. But all I can say is that, I think the best bet is to try to address the issue, not to ignore it. I look at it kind of like cancer, I suppose, where if you just ignored it, it could grow and could become worse. Like a wound, it could fester. You hope it goes away. Hope whatever your body handles it on its own, and you don't worry about it. But if you ignore it and it festers, then the problem became a lot bigger. So not only are those two people, like for her example, not only are those two family members toxic, now maybe they convinced the rest of the family to turn against you. Now that the wound of two became a festering wound of a family. A whole group of family. So it's not necessarily wise to ignore it, but it's not wise to perpetuate it or to make it worse. It's a rough balance for sure. But yeah, and I guess that's all I can say really about that one. I don't know. Bad idea, good idea? Did I have a good or bad idea? Who knows? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, that's my reaction to the best way to deal with toxic people. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.